Hi Krishna, welcome everybody. Like to thank Maharaj for coming. Maharaj drove 1 hour just to be here with all of us, and would like to thank all of you for being here. Different devotees coming from different parts: Naperville, Rogers Park, Ohio. So, welcome everybody for being here, and would like to thank Rasika Manjari and Golok Prabhu for opening their hearts and house for us to have this spiritual upliftment. We planned to have this association last month, but we could not because one of a close friend passed away. So Maharaj made it today here. Thank you. For some of us, you're meeting Maharaj for the very first time. So a little bio. Maharaj is a
I can recite it. I've heard it so many times. Communities and corporate and colleges and relationships and, thank you very much.
So we'll leave it for all of you to have it personal with Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
People are coming from Grace Lake too. So thank you all for coming.
I think I've seen most of you on a Zoom call. If I haven't met in person, we've met that way, but seeing at least some of you I recognize smiling faces on our Zoom calls. And for those of you that you don't know, you were just serenaded by a family, father and two daughters, family team effort. I'm looking at Goloka, who picked this topic, and it's a popular topic. It's not my favorite topic. Just icebreaker. My first introduction to this topic was someone brought to my attention that there was a Jewish rabbi that wrote a book with this title. I didn't read the book. I've seen the cover of the book, but I was told what's in the book. And Jewish rabbi, in short summary is, even God makes mistakes. Like, bad things shouldn't happen to good people. But even God makes mistakes, so sometimes bad things happen to good people. I didn't read the book, but I was like, what? Rabbi? Okay. Yesterday evening, Illinois Institute of Technology, the approach was different, but it's, somewhat related, guna and karma related. Yesterday evening, we discussed focused on two verses from Bhagavad Gita. And everybody here has some basic introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita is entitled Nature, Enjoyer, and Consciousness. And the way that I characterized I'll connect it with this topic. The way I characterized it was chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita differentiates matter and spirit. And we belong to the category of spirit. We don't belong to the category of matter. And if you identify the self as being part of matter, you got problems. So come to the position of proper knowledge. And chapter 13, go 6, 6, and 6. So it's the first chapter of the final 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is it's matter and spirit, and the controller of both. Just 201 instead of 101. That was how I was characterizing what it is. And why things happen, good or bad, the Sadasad Yoni Janmasu is part of the Purusha Prakriti Sohi 1322. You can look it up later. Purusha Prakriti Stha He. Prakriti Stha, the living entity, is situated in Stha, is situated in Prakriti. Purusha Prakriti Sohi Bhunkte. Trying to be the enjoyer. What else do you do when you're in the material energy? You try to enjoy it. Bhunkte. Prakriti Jan Gunan. And that brings one into the gunas. So karma and guna. That was our topic yesterday. And that's why bad things happen. People make the choices that in the modes of nature. So the living entity is conscious and consciousness. That's a nice living entity is conscious and consciousness. So based upon the enjoying of nature, there's the modes of nature, then we make choices according to the modes of nature. We're influenced strongly, primarily, by the 3 modes of nature. And then you make choices influenced by the 3 modes of material nature. And guess what? Activity that generates reaction, karma, and reaction to your actions. Sadasad yoni janmasu. So good fortune, ill fortune comes. So why do bad things happen to good people? Now you'll have the connection of why I'm speaking about yesterday evening's class for this one. Bad things don't happen to good people. Bad things happen when we make bad choices. And good people can make bad choices. And then they're responsible for those bad choices. You can't blame something out there. You can do, people do it all the time, blaming and shaming and this thing and that thing. But we're reaping the results of our past choices, karma, influenced by the modes of nature, fundamentally starting with bhunkte, bojayate, trying to be the enjoyer of prakriti. And we make some good choices, make some bad choices. Sometimes, in a mix. So the bad things that happen to good people is because of the bad choices we made. And we're responsible. Somebody else isn't responsible. Not they're responsible or... So is it because of karma? So this is, now we're going down the topic. Is it because of karma? Is it predestiny or bad choices? Bad choices. Thank you. Bad choices make bad karma, makes laws of nature act. A little sharing, it's kind of just on the topic, but kind of more sharing than exactly on the topic. In 3 university classes that I've conducted recently, one was at UT Austin, and there was, and before that UT Denton. Anyway, then another one, lively discussion. Somebody was really stubborn, and they didn't get it, in part because they didn't want to get it. That's when people don't want to get it, they don't get it. We went round and around and around, and they were stuck on, wait a minute, there's an omniscient being. Correct? Yes, there's an omniscient being. And that means he knows what we're going to do before we do it, right? Because he's omniscient, right? And therefore, there's no choice, because he knows what we're going to do. We just do what he knows we're going to do, and then we just do it. right? I know they kept going, "Oh, no." Somebody in the classroom gave this nice example. Supposing you have a hungry child and you put a glass jar filled with cookies right in front of them. Is it predestined? Or is it they're making a choice? You can predict what they're going to do. Predestined, right? Because you can predict what they're going to do. They're hungry, and there's a jar of their favorite cookies right in front of them. They're going to reach into that jar and munch away, like this little girl here. Mothers know. So mothers are God because they know what their little child's going to do before they do it. And the child doesn't have any free will. They're just forced by the laws of nature to because Mama knew or Krishna knows. Anyway, we went over and over and over. Free will is never taken. The intrinsic qualities of consciousness and the capacity to choose, you can be according to the modes of nature. But you don't have to choose. You don't have to choose according to the modes of nature. Oh, really? What's that? You choose what Krishna. You choose what those who are beyond the modes of material nature indicate. You choose that. You don't always get it right, but if the principle of bhakti guides your life, then you practice bhakti. You practice bhakti, and you practice bhakti, and you practice bhakti, and the coverings, the modes of nature, and the influences of past karma, both, subside. And you start making choices that aren't obstructed by the obstacles of your past choices. Is it really possible? That question I've heard 20 times in the past 2 weeks. Of course, it's not fib, not a fairy tale. It's not just teasing or something. But it takes practice. And then here's the good news, the best news. When you practice sincerely, small adverb, you practice sincerely, Krishna notices and he'll help you. It's called kripa. You're not alone. If you're alone, it's good luck. You and the modes of nature, who's going to win? But you're not alone. That's the good news. Okay. Karma, how to view it, use it, and lose it. Cute little phrase, right? Okay, here's the karma theory. You all know what that means. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And what's going to happen at the end? You can predict that block is going to come and smash him on the head. But he didn't, all he did is push over this one. Karma theory. Now, I hope sound works. Let's see if sound works. This is a nice little British it's called British humor. You want to see it again? Let's do it again. Even if you're not British, it's funny. Why do bad things happen to good people? Now, in this world, there's diversity. There's unity and there's diversity. And here's some pictures of diversity. Diversity of cultures and color and origins and families. This is human species. And then there's different species with diversity and Vedic classification of diversity. Here's the numbers. So, you've heard the 8,400,000 number. Here's the breakdown. You add them up and it's 8,400,000 germs and insects, avians, that's birds, animals, humans. There's variety. And amongst human beings, some have good fortune, some have ill fortune. Sadasad yoni janmasu. Chapter 13, text 22. Some are healthy and strong, some are weak and handicapped, so one may ponder, why? Why all these inequities? Why? Why is a good question. You don't always get answers, but it's a good question. Why is there suffering amongst innocent children? Why is God partial? He gets the blame, right? It's his fault. He could make everything smooth, and he doesn't make everything smooth. Sometimes and sometimes. Why? Why did innocent children get harmed? They didn't do anything wrong. Is God partial? In fact, why do bad things happen to good people? There's the book. How can God be all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving, and still bad things happen? Here's a different Bhagavad Gita verse. Some of you like Bhagavad Gita. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies of living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. Now, some people are more tuned in, some people are kind of numb to the violence that takes place in the world around us. And, this is one of them. Look, just pay attention when you're going around and how many burger places and chicken places and it's so abundant. There's people that don't do that. That's for sure. I was just in Houston for that wedding, and when I was there, I found out from Shamsundar Prabhu that the Houston Govinda's restaurant was ranked #1 vegetarian restaurant in Houston for the 5th year. And they just started a policy that 3 days of the week it's vegan. People, Houston, Texas, they're thinking vegetarian and vegan. And then the days that it's not vegan, it's milk that comes from their urban farm. So it's all ahimsa milk or none, because some people don't differentiate. But some people do. But there's a lot of this other, it's not just especially Texas. It's all over. It's all over. And it's the norm. And so when there's, as you sow, you shall reap, or another way of saying that this is just on the topic of why do bad things happen to good people. We went to college, most of us. We learned it in high school, Newton's third law of physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So what do you expect when you go over it with a kayak over waterfalls? Something's going to happen. There's laws of nature. And despite our ignorance of the laws of nature, there's laws of nature. Stringent laws of nature. I think this is another British cartoon. Same kind of an idea. Now, going a little bit further, there's karma that's fructifying now. It's called prarabdha. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes during this seminar coming up in Houston on Madhurya Kandamani covering this topic. And so just like there's tree that has some ripened fruits that are fallen to the ground. That's called prarabdha karma. And there's in the seed form, bija form. The bija form is in a seed. And kuta is just before it becomes a seed. It's a propensity that's just waiting to mature. And by the influence of the previous stage, it becomes mature and then becomes manifested. And then there's this big warehouse called aprarabdha karma. It's like stuff that's not necessarily going to happen even in this lifetime, but there's a big warehouse of desire that's carrying forward since time immemorial of, the spirit of Purusha Prakriti Stohi. Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan. So that's Bhagavad Gita. Tendencies that are stored. They're just in a like subtle state, and nothing's triggering them yet. And the clock ticks and clock ticks and clock ticks, and suddenly there's this desire. Where'd that come from? Came from the storehouse, the big warehouse. A prarabdha karma. And then another detail about karma, it's not like instant karma. There's a popular phrase or something, song. But sometimes it's quick, and sometimes spans over a long period of time. This is a little chart showing spanning over a long period of time. And sometimes much longer time, sometimes much shorter time. So you can't say. It's very complex. Time moves in cycles. That's a principle. Day and night, season, summer, fall, winter, spring, 1 year, next year, and time moves in cycles. So karma moves in cycles, but one of the forces that's moving it is time, and time doesn't go according to our plan. You noticed? You can make a plan. It doesn't always work according to your plan. And then, so make these two combined, guna and karma, and you get, varieties of living entities, and then when this living entity, here's a nice teaching. You probably know it already. Prior to the human form of life, there's no generation of new karma. They're just living out the force of previous karma, because they don't even have the capacity to make choices. You can try to train an animal to, say Haribol or something, roll over, or, jump over a fence post or something, horses. You can train them to do something, but speaking in general terms, they're not making choices. But the human form of life has elevated consciousness, and therefore we can go up, same, sideways, or down. Urdvam gachati sattvasta. The animals, all, not just animals, all species of life, they're influenced by the modes of nature also. They're animals in the mode of goodness, cows. Animals in the mode of passion, lions, tigers. Animals in the mode of ignorance, sloth, etc. Insects, birds. So modes of nature are acting, but the choice isn't the same. The human form of life has this free will choice. And based upon free will choices, it's determining our outcome. Here's some little Back to Godhead magazine images depicting. You do this, and you get that. Almost, I'll try to finish quickly. Ian Stevenson, maybe some of you know who that gentleman is. He's a professor at University of Virginia. Probably now he's deceased. But he did recollection, people recalling their previous lives. And, he's written books, and the books describe the circumstances under which there was a past life remembrance and how he recorded it and so forth. It's abundant. It's a lot of but most of the time we don't remember. I just hearing Prabhupada speaking on this point this morning, and he was explaining forgetfulness has to do with the change of body. What we were doing at this time 24 hours ago. I have to stop and think. What to speak of previous life. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, many, many lives, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. So where does remembrance come from? Where does forgetfulness come from? From Supersoul. Supersoul doesn't forget. We forget. Unless he reminds us. So past life remembrances is like that. Somehow Supersoul, because it's stored somewhere in our little better than Bill Gates, photo file. Very soft, Microsoft. Memory file. And the impression is there. We forgot. We don't have access to it. I have a lot of stuff in my computer. I don't even know that it was there. But I put it there. I just forgot. I was looking for an image yesterday while I was on the plane because I can't access the internet. And I found it. It was in my computer. It's a situation where King Chitraketu meets Lord Sankarshan. And there he is before him, offering his obeisances, and Sankarshan gave him instruction. Because Narada gave him a mantra that entitled him to become elevated in bhakti, and can meet Sankarshan. Anyway, we have photo files in our computers or images, impressions in our mind that we forgot, unless there's a prompt. And who knows what that prompt is sometimes, why people remember their previous lives and other people don't. There's probably some reason besides, ultimately it's in the hand of Supersoul, because that's 15:15 Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham radi sannivishto matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna, as a Supersoul, gives us remembrance. So I may not remember the bad things that I did in the past, but I can remember the bad result that happened to me today. Now, this is meant to show a hopper that stores grain, and there's grain that goes on top of the ones that are at the bottom. And they store it, and then they dispense it. So time, that time moving forces of matter, forces of karma. We don't see time. We see the impact of time. Tick tick, tick tick. That's your measurements of time, but we don't see time. But time is moving things. Time thing brings things into being. Time maintains. Time destroys. The force of time, insuperable force of time. So go back to this question: Is everything predestined? Here's a nice example. Here's a man that has a brother, and they're two brothers. One of the two brothers, there's names connected to these images, but one became a thief and the other became, celebrated lawyer. And there's this example. Once you get on a plane, the plane takes off. You made your choice. Whether it was a good choice or not a good choice, you made your choice, and the plane takes off. You may be able to walk around the plane a little bit, but you can't go too far once you've made your choices. We're conditioned souls are confined by the past free will choices, influenced by the modes of nature. So, good karma, bad karma, maybe they cancel each other out. No, it's not how it works. Because you'll get both. Then is good really good? Is good karma good? Because you do good karma, what's the consequence? You get another body. You get a good one. And what happens when you get a good one? Does it get diseased? Does it get old? Aches and pains? No. I was good. Shouldn't have those things. From today, I'm only going to do good karma. This is the image. From a small cage to a big cage. I demand my freedom now. So you got a bigger cage. Freedom is not a bigger cage. What's next? How to balance all this? Well, there's lots of things that don't work. Good karma, bad karma don't cancel each other out. Okay, one of my favorite stories. All good stories, most good stories begin with once upon a time. You ready for a once upon a time story? Many of you know this already. You've heard it as many times as I've said it probably. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer. And the Chinese farmer had a horse. And the villagers came to the Chinese farmer and said, "Oh, what good fortune. You have a horse. You can plow your fields much more easily than the rest of us that don't have a horse. What good fortune." And the farmer said, he was a Taoist. So he gave the same reply every time. Good fortune, ill fortune, who can say? Some time passed, the horse ran away. And the villagers came to the farmer and said, "Oh, what misfortune, the horse ran away. Now you have to plow your fields like we do." And he said, "Good fortune, ill fortune, who can say?" Some time passed, the horse came back. And not only the horse came back with a number of other wild horses. And the villagers went to the farmer and said, "Wow, what good fortune. Now we have one horse, you have many horses. You can plow your fields so much more easily." Good fortune, ill fortune, who can say? His eldest son was engaged in trying to train one of the wild horses how to plow the field, and he fell off the horse and broke his leg. Villagers came to the farmer and said, "Oh, what ill fortune. Your son broke his leg falling off the horse." We're almost done for this part of it. And so the farmer said, "Good fortune, ill fortune, who can say?" Some time passed. The Chinese government, you won't believe it, but they went to war. And they passed a conscription law saying all able-bodied men over such and such age had to join the army. And when the military came to town, They didn't take their son because he had a broken leg. So the villagers came and said, "Oh, what good fortune your son didn't have to go to the war because he's got a broken leg." Same answer. So how we look at a circumstance will often dictate, perception will often dictate whether you see it as good fortune or ill fortune. It's a nice story. I don't have a slide here, but I know the nice story. George de Menstrel. Who's that? A Swiss engineer. So what? One day, he had a dog and he went for a walk with his dog. And as they were walking in a wooded area, the dog had a number of burrs that clung to his fur. And then, it could be very frustrating. Ill fortune, right? So instead of like obsessing over what ill fortune and how did this happen and all those things, I'm a good person, why did this bad thing happen? He decided, because he was a Swiss engineer, he got a magnifying glass out and looked carefully at the structure of a burr and saw that each of those things that stick out from the center piece, they have a little hook on it. And he used that to create Velcro. And it became a fortune, literally. He's the inventor of Velcro. And it has so many applications, blah, 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 blah. He's the guy. From bad fortune to good fortune. So it depends on how you see a thing. In many cases, not all cases. Both karma, good or bad, are bad because they're both binding. People that have the good fortune, they also are bound to the karma. That means you must take birth and go through stuff to deal with your karma. So what to do? This is how I started the conversation yesterday. The best way to deal with bad karma is to not have any. Best way to do karma of any kind is not have any. The best way to deal with anxiety, this was at Brandeis University, stress management. The best way to deal with stress is don't have any. Vaikuntha, the consciousness of you're with the Supreme, and you're connected with the Supreme, and you don't have any stress. So there is a principle described in Bhagavad Gita, akarma. And the principle is there's a source of everything. Everything belongs to that source of everything. We act according to that indications of Bhagavad Gita, the manual, how to live your life. She finished her munchies and now she wants something else. Okay. Okay, I think I'm just going to skip the end because we pretty much covered. Yeah, let's just do the questions. Yeah, performing only akarma throughout your life, that's bhakti yoga. Yoga is that which links one with the Supreme. Very simple. That's the solution. Simple. Application is another thing, but simple solution. Goloka. Mission fulfilled? You know the audience, mostly. Relevant? Meaningful? Comments? Yes. These men are prepared. They have multiple portable microphones.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, and thank you for the presentation. This last statement about all throughout life, performing only akarma, uh, it it feels like balancing on a tightrope, and any slight deviation generates karma. And so I'm feeling intimidated on hearing
Oh,
that, and
don't feel
how to
intimidated.
keep hope, I guess, that it is possible to live without generating that karma.
Well, attend. Do you plan to come to the seminar in Houston? No. Listen to the recordings, because these kinds of questions all have answers. And it's not me. It's Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur and our acharyas. So I'll give you two answers. There's a nice verse in Uddhava Gita where supposing there's that which generates a reaction. Offense generates a reaction. But supposing you are very enthusiastic and unintentionally, intentionally is something else, unintentionally, you step on someone's toe, or you make a mistake. You do something, say something, perform something that's out of character and unbecoming, and you slipped on the tightrope, using your metaphor. According to what Krishna says, and specifically, the verse says, even if you run with your eyes closed, that's what the verse says. And the explanation is, even if you're very enthusiastic, that's the running, but you're not paying full attention because whatever the reason is, there's no karma, there's no offense that generated, and there's no reaction generated. So the main force of that verse is remain enthusiastic, utsahan nishchaya daryat. Remain enthusiastic, utsahan, to carry out bhakti as best you can. You're walking the tightrope and you make the wrong step, but you're okay. You just have a safety net, and Krishna's there, and he recognizes the sincerity of your enthusiasm. Now, the flip side is, oh, great, then I can just carry on and do whatever the heck I want, and Krishna will cover my backside. That's an offense. But if it's something that's unintentional, and it's not perfect, because we're not perfect, we make mistakes, you're covered. So the operative is sincerity of intention and purpose, and that's how bhakti starts to begin with. In fact, that's a definition of the seed of bhakti, the intention that Krishna should be pleased. I'm not there yet, but my intention is, bhakti begins. That's the seed. Bhakti lata bij. And you just stay with it. Supposing your intention gets distracted, keep good association. Someone can tap you on the shoulder and say, you're falling asleep at the wheel, you better wake up. Oh. You're heading for the ditch. See that car coming at you? You better, move your car away from that car coming at you. So, okay. Yes, well.
Just following on the same
His
thoughts
question.
and questions from Lord Brahma's verse, that Tenu Kampan verse, there is the fact that we have to deal with the consequences of our choices.
That's right.
And it's not easy sometimes to face those consequences. And at times, rather than to follow, Lord Brahma's position that you tolerate and engage in hearing and chanting with mind, body, and like that. We just like Jasananda Prabhu says, sometimes overwhelming, or sometimes you feel,
That's why you need good association. The association can hold your hand. So, for those of you that are a little bit newer, you don't know what the heck he's talking about. He's making reference to a verse, an important verse from 10th Canto Bhagavatam, where Brahma made a boo-boo, a big one. And he recognizes, I made a big boo-boo. Now, I'm responsible for that. I mean, it was really bad. It wasn't just a boo-boo. It was really bad. And he came before Krishna with palms folded, saying, I'm not going to ask you to take away the reaction. I accept the fullness of the force of the reaction from my misdeed. But the request is, please help me keep my mind fixed on you when this reaction of my past misdeed comes. Now, Krishna freed him from the reaction. Krishna wasn't holding him. So whether Krishna gives a pardon or not, whether it's good fortune or ill fortune or not, but stuff back there that we made some unintentional mistake. Brahma's wasn't unintentional. It was conscious. So he's responsible when we do things deliberately that are interfering with the happiness of the personality of Godhead, knowingly. So we're responsible. Now, so his question is, when you're facing that circumstance in your life, whatever it may be, what to do? How to stay the course when it looked like the reaction from my past misdeed is pretty powerful. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And my answer was, you need good association. So that there's, in short, there's strength beyond your strength. Because the strength is there, but in good association can help bring that strength that is there out when it's feeling down. Prabhupada's expression is fan the spark. Twice. One was a morning walk in Vrindavan. He made a motion like this. Preaching means you see a spark and you fan the spark. Not too much. And then the effect, if you fan the spark becomes a little flame. And he looked around. And if you become really expert, you can make that little flame into a big blaze. And his eyes got big. Looked around and smiled and continued with the morning walk. So, association of those that know how to fan the spark. They're well-wishing persons. They're wise, and they're a genuine kind, not the other kind of friend. They accept you for who you are, and they encourage you. That's okay. Not like making mistakes is just fine, but we make mistakes, so it happens. So you don't feel judged. You feel encouraged to make the next step. Fan the spark. So we need good association that help us when we're feeling a little overwhelmed. Even when we're not feeling a little overwhelmed, good association is good. Okay. Something else? Yes.
I remember reading in Science of Self-Realization that our life is destined. Prabhupada is saying that our life is destined, except that Krishna can check it. So,
say the language again slowly. We're destined what?
That our life is destined, except that Lord Krishna can check it.
Okay.
Change it.
Well, another way of saying the same thing is when for action there's reaction. That's destiny. The destiny is, little kid that's hungry, you put a cookie jar in front of him. It's predestined. It's just, the modes of nature and the senses and the choices, and there's so karma plays itself out. But that you can check that karma plays itself out. That question was asked twice yesterday evening. What do we do when we're caught? The cycle. So that's the way out. It's yoga, linking with the Supreme.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hi-bo.
I have a question. Do free will and karma exist in the spiritual world, or are they only material?
What do you think?
I'm not sure. Probably not, but
Okay, there's free will for sure, because living entities are there. Wherever there's living entities, there's free will. In the material world, there's karma. In the spiritual world, there isn't karma. Karma is the reaction for choices made apart from the Supreme, or prakriti sto bhunkte prakriti sto hi. Trying to be the enjoyer prakriti, you get karma. Good, bad, and mixed. In the spiritual world, there's no independent from Krishna desire. There's desire. There's consciousness. There's free will. But it's a free will choice. It's a loving choice. So no karma. It's good news, isn't it? All the way in the back, our host wants to.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Few days back, I was talking to one of the neighbor, and he was telling that he was in a difficult situation, but going forward 6 months, he saw that whatever has happened, it was good for him, like how you said about the Chinese story. So in that difficult time, how to convince ourselves to see that whatever is happening, there is some like a plan there, or it's a karma, or how to see it, like with respect to.
Well, the how to see it requires intelligence. So let's ask the question, how do you get intelligence? That's a good question. And where does intelligence come from, Super Soul? Matakshmatir Gyanam. I've mentioned the verse already. 15:15 Bhagavad Gita. Intelligence comes from Krishna. To make your Krishna connection strong. Supposing you don't know. Supposing you don't have a lot of intelligence. Intelligence means discerning capacity. This from that, that's intelligence. I'm not so good at it. I've been kind of dull. Okay, then what do you do when you're kind of dull and you can't discern? Strive for being connected to the source of intelligence, to the source of everything. You work on the sadhana practices for cleansing and awakening, and have good association, good guides, people that may be able to see what you can't see. But then, I'm hesitant to say, many cases when people ask and they get an answer, they don't do. They go, the head goes yes, and the heart goes no. Because of being attached to that which is covering Supersoul, or covering Krishna, covering their Krishna consciousness. It's just, it's dull. It's coverings. Make it not so easy. So what to do when you find yourself in that conundrum? Then you take good association and you continue your practice as best you can with enthusiasm and good association. And be patient for the results. Rupa Goswami's teaching, Utsahan Nishchaya Dayayat. Okay. Yes, Sri Radhika, and then we're going to end. Oh, you have something also. Okay.
Guru Maharaj, in the life of one who's trying to practice bhakti yoga, if there are reversals, those are not prarabdha karma,
Right.
it's Krishna's mercy.
Yes, Krishna's mercy. And now his question, how to see it, Krishna's mercy. Go ahead.
So, of the 4 stages of fructification, it seems aprarabdha, prarabdha, and bija are nullified by bhakti.
Oh, yeah.
But the proclivity, kuta,
Yeah.
that one, like Bhagavad Gita says, the waves in the ocean, it seems those keep coming. We see even in the lives of some very elevated souls.
So now what to do?
My question is more, is it correct to understand that bhakti destroys 3 of the 4?
No. 4 of the 4. In stages, but 4 of the 4. Because, proclivity. I want to enjoy. It's not like kill it, just redirect it. And is it possible to redirect it? Just this morning after the morning class, someone was saying it's not possible. They're feeling, a little depressed because it's not possible for me. It's possible. It's not fib, not false propaganda. So all 4.
How can we understand that in light of the Bhagavad Gita verse that, desires keep coming like waves in the ocean? A transcendentalist.
That's in the material side. No. Let's close your eyes and imagine you're a pure devotee. Or take the life of a pure devotee. Take the life of Haridas Thakur. Or someone. The temptation and, proclivity may be there. One who has a body, those proclivity. You have to eat. You have to sleep, mate, and defend. So there's proclivity. And is it possible? The answer is yes. No, it's not like you have to become a super ascetic and do what Grandfather Bhishma did. Hey, coming up at the end of this month of Kartik is Bhishma Panchaka, and you can really go for it. Not eat, not sleep, not drink, nothing for 7 days. Good luck. But that's not the bar. That you just, whatever you do that with the purpose of pleasing Krishna. That's our sadhana. And elevated souls can do. Even Sikandi can do. And she was bad. It just what was in her tank was revenge. For 12 years. Whew. Once a year, she ate a dry leaf. She was intense. We're going to hear about it when? Tomorrow. We're going to hear about Sikandi. Okay. All 4. Last question. That same question. No kidding. Okay. And by the way, there are different ways of looking at those 4 besides the way that you described it. Here's how both Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti describe it. The way that they describe it is the aprarabdha, using their language, it may not become active in this life, but that's where the propensity lies. Vasana, propensities to be engaged in enjoying activities. And then kuta, distinct, is it's just prior to the bija stage. His propensity gets animated or activated through time and circumstance. But the other just stays there. Aprarabdha. That's how they describe it. It was a little different than what, but it's okay. Just different definitions by different teachers. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mahaprasadam ki. The one family member that's missing. Yeah. She's cooking. Yummy. I could have guessed. You maybe you know there was a wedding in Houston, and I asked for some Mahaprasadam. She brought a wheelbarrow full of Mahaprasadam. She didn't bring it; she sent it, and I'm going to distribute some of it. It's over here, and I have 3 more boxes left. I had half a suitcase filled with Mahaprasadam. It was nice. I was having a nice time giving it out, so I'll give some out tonight. Oh,